Hi, guys. My name is Vikram Raya. Welcome to Limitless MD, the podcast where we talk about freedom, wealth, and human optimization. Today, my guest is Dr. Sachin Patel. Sachin is a physician. He is a father. He's a philanthropist. He's a business coach. He's one of my mentors. And really, he's going to break down so many different topics today from, how to get into a perfect alignment from with your practice, your medical practice, your life, your wealth creation, being a family person, to how to optimize your own physical and personal health, to really thinking bigger and broader and knowing that, don't let your identity as a physician handcuff you. In fact, let it be more of an expansive identity where being a physician is one of the many things you do in life. And so we'll also talk about the golden thread. Guys, this is going to be a special two-parter. I'll have part one right now, and then after this, we're going to have a second part of this episode. So make sure you tune in for both parts of this podcast. And with that said, I look forward to sharing everything on social media, and stay tuned for not only part one, but part two of this iconic episode.
What if you could reclaim hours of free time each week, create legacy building wealth, and devote more energy to your passion projects without giving up on your career as a life-saving MD? My name is Vikram Raya, functional cardiologist, high performance coach, and real estate expert. And I'm here to give you the tools, strategies, and solutions you need to transform your life so you can unlock your limitless potential and achieve greatness, all the while freeing up your precious time. Welcome to Limitless MD. Let's dive in. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Limitless MD. I'm your host, Vikram Raya, and today I'm going to speak to one of my mentors, close friends, and all around like Renaissance people that I know, Sachin Patel. Sachin, welcome to the program.
Vikram, thank you for having me. It's such an honor, and what an awesome full circle moment for us to be able to have this conversation. I'm really excited for today.
Guys, for those of you, man, there's probably a small minority who don't know Sachin. His work is legendary. He is a father. He's a husband. He's a physician turned entrepreneur. He's a proponent for doctors all over the country in the United States, Canada, and I don't know where else you're taking care of folks, but literally he's helping elevate physicians so they can practice their way with his program called The Perfect Practice. He's helped mentor me personally, and he has I find him to be what I call the alignment doctor, right? He got trained in chiropractic and he got trained in physically aligning people's spines, but he's gone way beyond that. He's helped people align their lives, their missions, their values, their beliefs, align their practices. And what I find him to be is he's a conscious capitalist. And so with that introduction, Sachin, take it away, man. Where did this all come from? What's your origin story?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it comes from my parents, actually. And, there's a lot of things that we learn from our parents on how to win at life. And there's a lot of lessons that our parents learn that we can learn from that show us the things not to do. And so I want to give my parents a lot of credit because they, in many ways, showed me what not to do in business, but in many ways, they showed me what to do in life and how to live in alignment, how to have integrity, how to be a good family man, how to be what I hope to be is a great husband and a great father. And so I had some amazing entrepreneurial lessons from my parents, but also lessons from them on how to be an exceptional, what I hope to be an exceptional human being. So I think that's where the original origin story starts. As you were introducing me and saying that I'm a physician turned entrepreneur, it made me think about that. My first business was actually a barbershop. And I actually had a barbershop that I ran out of my parents' garage when I was a teenager. And that was because I didn't like the way my barber cut my hair. And so every time I came home, I would, after a haircut, I would try to fix it and tweak it and cut it the way I wanted it to be cut. And then my dad whispered to me something one day and he said, if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. And I don't know if in some ways that really served me. And in some ways it delayed me asking for help because I thought I could figure it all out myself. And so, but what he did is he installed a belief in me that I have the capability and capacity to do, whatever it is that I want. He didn't say, hey, there's a whole bunch of things you can't do. You're always going to have to outsource that. He said, you have this capacity and capability. So it gave me this kind of internal belief. And after that haircutting business, I actually, through that haircutting business, actually, I learned how to sell packages. So I remember one time I wanted to buy a sport coat for our university. I guess it was our residence prom. And I didn't have the money at the time to buy this sport coat. It was a couple $100. And I'm like, okay, I got to come up with a creative solution. My parents certainly wouldn't have lent me the money not to buy that coat for one evening, for sure. Being Indian, that's not a thing, right? And so I already exhausted all my options, and I didn't have a job at the time, but I was cutting hair. So I would cut hair, and that would kind of pay for my entertainment costs. And then one day when I wanted to buy this jacket, I said, okay, that's a lot of haircuts. I don't have enough time. What if I pre-sold these people haircuts into the future? Because I know that they're going to want a haircut a month from now or a couple of weeks from now. And I know who they're going to go to, because you don't switch barbers very often when you find the right person. So I actually sold my first packages of haircuts. I don't even know if they do that in real life right now, where you can buy a whole bunch of haircuts in advance and get a discount. But I only had to cut a very few people's hair because I sold them a bundle of future haircuts. And of course I delivered on those haircuts, and I got my jacket. So I got all the benefits kind of rolled into one. I'm like, wow, this entrepreneurship thing is really cool. You can make up your prices, you can make up your offers, and the market will tell you if this is something that they want or not. So that's a distinct memory for me, is kind of my dad, letting me know that, hey, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. So it allowed me to dabble in so many different things. I became great at detailing cars. I became great at cutting hair. During the pandemic, I was cutting my father-in-law and my son's hair. So I got to relive some of my youth there. So I think it started from a very young age. And I know there's all these people that pour into us and experiences that pour into us. But I really feel that entrepreneurship is something that I've always been doing. And I love now that as a physician and somebody who sees chaos and opportunity happening simultaneously, I see that we can use our businesses as a force for good to make some awesome changes in people's lives. And so I love being consciously capital and helping people invest in practices like yours and mine, where they see a massive ROI, whether it's their personal development or whether it's the development of their practice.
That's awesome, man. I'm already planning, hey, am I going to be in Toronto? I need to get a little trim here. Is your garage open for some doctors to show up here? So let's get into something, because I really want to serve my audience, which is similar to your audience. They're doctors who are enlightened. They are awakened, I call them. They're the doctors who sort of unplugged from the matrix, and they're realizing that they can really define their destiny, their life. They can have the contribution they want without sacrificing income. So explain to me how your identity is almost like deconstruction of identity, integration, expansion, and all of that has happened. And I remember clearly the conversation we had when you said, hey, look, sometimes letting go of being a cardiologist or a physician can potentially expand you to do all the other things you want to do in life. So maybe walk us through all that thought process.
Yeah. I think here's the thing, if we think about the journey of a stem cell, right? A stem cell starts off as having infinite potential. And then it's only when it, identifies with a certain organ or is signaled to turn into a certain organ, its destiny is now kind of hardwired. So, if it's destined to be a heart cell, it becomes a heart cell. And, as far as I know, there's no going back after that. However, as a human being, we do not have this same destiny. We have infinite, pluripotent destiny where we can become whatever we want. The worst thing that anyone can do is kind of hang their hat on an identity of something that happened a decade ago. So me identifying as a chiropractor, while I will never not identify as a chiropractor, I don't hang my hat on that and recognize that that's all I am. Because all I had to do to get that designation was go through school for 4 or 5 years, and I got that designation. But there's so much more to me than that. And by reducing myself down to that identity, I don't even allow myself to be other things. I don't even allow other people to explore other parts of me. So now when people ask me what I do, I just tell them I'm still trying to figure it out. Because I leave that potential open. Right? I leave that possibility open. So just like a stem cell, our body is releasing stem cells every single day. So we have this potential within us to be reborn and, identify ourselves with many different things instead of a singular thing. A label reduces us. And, there's a quote, and I can't remember if it's from the Gita or it's from the Tao Te Ching. I think it's from the Tao Te Ching. And it says to name the Tao is to not know the Tao. And so when we name something, we actually reduce it down to the point where it becomes actually unrecognizable from what its full potential is. So, that's one of the reasons I don't prefer to call myself doctor, right? I don't want that title to immediately have people put me into a box. I don't want that title to reduce me down to a certain conversation that person wants to have. I don't want to just jump in to say, hey, I'm a chiropractor. And now immediately somebody starts thinking about their back and their spine and their headaches or their joint aches and pains, because there's so many other things that I can talk about and I love to explore with them. So I don't like to reduce myself down to that. So I think there's, potential for all of us to, have this fluid identity. And I'm not getting into gender politics and stuff like that, but just, having a fluid identity of, how we can contribute to the world and how people can recognize us to be, pluripotent, right? And add value in so many different areas than what our degree or designation might say.
I love the stem cell analogy. That really resonates home. And I like I wrote it down because I felt that was very poignant. The fluid identity. We're not meant to be in a clean little box. And, I used to struggle when I used to I go to a dinner party. Hey, what do you do? I'm like, pull up a seat. I was like, or like, hey, sometimes I ask, hey, what do you do? Because I can talk about a lot of different things. So I'm curious about what you want to do and what you're interested in, because I could probably relate to that, So that's really, I think that's really keen. Tell us about, the transition from a clinician where you're helping people, first in your local area in, I think, was it Toronto, I believe?
Yep.
And then you've expanded to other areas. And then you decided, hey, not only do I want to help the patient, but I want to help more than that. And then before we get into that, tell us about the concept of the doctor of the future.
Sure. So just to be clear, I started off in Cincinnati and now I'm located in Toronto. And, our vision has always been from the very beginning to actually solve the current healthcare crisis further upstream. And what that basically means is when we go further upstream, it means that we're not trying to solve the problem where we're coming face to face with it right now. We're trying to solve the problem before it occurs in the first place. So I listened to a presentation from my mentor, James Chestnut. I'm sorry, James Nestor is also a mentor, but James Chestnut. And he basically said, we don't need more doctors. We don't need more nurses. We don't need more hospital beds. We don't need more medical equipment. We don't need more drugs. We need more healthy people. Because at the end of the day, that's what we all want, right? Nobody wants a cure for cancer. They just don't want cancer in the first place. It's nice to have a cure, but the only way to benefit from a cure is to develop the disease and live a lifestyle that created that disease, or eat food that created that disease, or have emotions that created that disease. But here's the tragic part about that is that we actually coded that same mindset, that same food philosophy, that same environment. We exposed our children to it. So we've passed that disease on, or that disease creating process on to the next generation, who's basically going to repeat the same pattern, develop the same illnesses and same diseases. And, hopefully by then there's a cure, but nobody wants that.
Yeah. Right? It's almost like a disease protocol where there's the treatment protocol, but we've actually created a disease protocol. But that's fascinating. So what was your thought process on what's the solution?
Well, the solution is people should know how to take care of themselves, right? They should know how their body works, and I started, just analyzing. I'm like, hey, when we go to school, we don't learn anything about growing our own food, which means that companies can feed us crap and we have no idea, because we have no idea what real food is, right? If you've ever grown your own food, you can instantly recognize what garbage is, and garbage is what most people are eating and what they're being fed, and they don't understand the consequences of that. The next thing they don't teach us anything about is anything meaningful about health and wellness. Like in school, did they ever teach you how to take care of yourself? Like we had PE class and stuff, and just to keep us physical and keep us moving. We had no idea We learn nothing about how to eat properly. We learn nothing about mindset. We learn nothing about mindfulness. We learn nothing about anything meaningful in relationship to keeping us healthy and vital. And the third thing we learn nothing about is money. So these are the three systems that enslave humanity today, right? So we feed people crappy food, and we palliate them by making the food taste good, even though they're poisoning themselves. We keep people sick, and then we keep people broke. And of course, these are the most lucrative industries on the entire planet right now, because we have to outsource and delegate these, things that we should be doing for ourselves. We've delegated them out to other companies and organizations, and we call that an economy. I'm like, this is so broken. And right now, for our economy to thrive, people have to grow less food, they have to get more sick, and they have to be more financially destitute. So our current world and the way we've set things up actually thrives on people suffering and people not knowing. So what I realize is the solution is to do the exact opposite, right? How do we flip the switch so we can get people growing their own food, perhaps, like we have a garden in our home? And I know that's not practical for everybody, but at least recognizing what real food is and eating real food so that their body has, from a nutrient perspective, the things that it needs. Now, nutrients aren't everything, because I could put magnesium in one person's body and I could put it in somebody else's body. In one person's body, it's going to help them relax and go to bed. The other person, it's going to help them metabolize the excess carbohydrates that they're eating. So all nutrients, although are created equal, don't have the same function in somebody's body. So how do we get them eating real food and recognizing what's good for them? How do we teach them something meaningful about their health and help them become their own doctor? Because that's really what they need to be. Thomas Edison said the doctor of the future will interest his patient in the frame and the function of the human body, not give them more drugs, but will also teach them how to eat food. And I'm butchering the quote here, but you get the point. The idea here was to teach the person. And I'm like, well, the doctor of the future is actually the patient. That's what we need to start thinking about. What if somebody was healthy from the moment they were born to the moment that they died? Have we ever, knowing everything that we know about science and all the literature that's out there and all the things that we know to do and not to do, have we ever even tried to do that, where we take a vitalistic model of health and promote that from the very beginning of somebody's life? What is the human potential? We haven't even fully realized as a species what our potential is, because this has never been done, as far as I know, with the modern understanding that we have today.
Yeah. Where guys, I want you to take away the doctor of the future is the patient, right? That framework, if we actually educate that, put that in the school system, use that as our litmus test as we're trying to educate and empower. We call them patients, but they're just human beings. They become patients when they get sick,
Mm-hmm.
But really have this kind of preemptive, proactive, sort of personalized kind of viewpoint. I think it's a game changer. And I know you're on the forefront of doing that. Tell me why you felt like just being a practitioner was not enough.
Well, here's the thing. I think being a practitioner is such a great, role in society. We're well respected. People value what we have to say. But I didn't think it was enough for me, because I had a feeling that I could make a much bigger impact. And as many practitioners probably know, we're oftentimes limited by what we can say, who we can say it to, right? I can give somebody advice if they're sitting next to me in my office, but if I say the same thing to somebody online, in a different state, I can't do that, right? So there's like these weird, invisible fences that have been built around preventing us from actually getting our message out there and helping many of the people that we like to help. So when I started off in Cincinnati, I told my wife, give me 2 years. And if we can build a successful practice here, we can do it anywhere. Then we moved back to Toronto. And then in Toronto, I built a similar practice, a micro practice. And a micro practice is where you co-share, you have your own office, but you're in a co-working type of space. And this keeps your overhead absolutely minimal and allows you to have maximum cash flow, but also maximum touch point. Most of your revenue goes back into your client, not into rent and all these other expenses that some other businesses occur. So we can create an extraordinary business and we can create an amazing user experience for our clients as well using that model. And as I moved back to Toronto, within months, I had my practice set up. It was thriving. And people are like, dude, like, how did you do that? My colleagues started noticing. And I said, well, hey, jump on a call. I'll be happy to tell you. And I started taking calls one-on-one with people. And then my wife is like, you're giving all these people this amazing information. Why don't you do it in a group? Why don't you just meet with them on a Thursday, every Thursday, and you can share the same thing because they'll all benefit from each other. And I said, oh, that's a great idea. So I started doing that. And then, it started growing from there. So it started off as just a handful of people. Then it grew into, now we get 100 practitioners on every week that are tuning into these calls that we do that educate them and teach them how to, create a business and a brand that attracts their ideal clients, that puts them through a transformational program, and then also helps them live out the 5 freedoms, which, are health, emotions, time, geographic freedom, and financial freedom. So it really started off as, from a few phone calls, and then it kind of snowballed into an entire mentorship program that we have for clients.
That's awesome. And so, for these, I call them these, these doctors who've unplugged, and then they're really ready to see possibilities. They're possibilitarians. They're people who potentially want to not only enhance their income, but really have practice the way they want to practice and not have the handcuffs that, insurance companies, hospitals, whatever else is throwing on them. What are the characteristics you've noticed of the people who you mentor who are really successful and thriving?
Great question. So here's the thing. If you're somebody who's still plugged into the matrix, that's totally okay, because this movement is going to snowball the medical system, and you're going to start seeing more and more of integrative wellness, functional medicine into the mainstream medical model. So you can stay plugged in and witness kind of the transformation that takes place, because all the science and evidence is showing that this is a superior way of helping people. And so as evidence-based medicine and the research advances, it's all pointing in this direction. Insurance now, in fact, does cover health coaching. So if you are a practitioner and you want to, again, kind of stay plugged in, because it's where your comfort zone is and you've got an established practice, and now you want to layer on health coaching, insurance actually covers it. So again, science is showing that this saves people's lives. It saves the medical system money. And now, the tide is shifting in this favor. But if you want to get out of that, then there are certain characteristics that are required. So one is patience, right? You've got to understand that you're building a business, that you've got to build a brand, right? And, that takes some time to get things off the ground. You may not immediately replace your income unless you already have like an established brand, for example. It might take learning new skills, right? We're trained as practitioners. We're not necessarily trained as entrepreneurs. And while the teachings can be simple, they need to also, they need to land for you, and you need to incorporate them into how you live your daily life. As an entrepreneur, there's no guaranteed you're going to get paid, right? So when you're an employee of a healthcare network, there's a difference between the entrepreneur mindset and the employee mindset. The employee mindset is, hey, I get paid. Even if I do a crappy job, I get paid. But if I do an exceptional job, I still get paid the same amount. And I only get paid after I do the work, right? Never before. So there are certain benefits of being an employee. Gives you security, gives you stability, gives you predictability. And some people like that. However, it doesn't give you fulfillment. It doesn't give you reward. If you do an amazing job, you're not going to get, double the pay. And so there's no incentive built into that model, right? And some people do okay with that. And that's okay, because they can think and they can focus on whatever skill that they have and how they're going to do it. But if you take somebody like yourself, Vikram, as a cardiologist, out of that system, right? Now you've got to figure out, okay, where are my clients coming from? How am I going to help them? I've got to create a business system that's going to support them, and so on and so forth. Whereas before, if you're working in a hospital setting, you were there as an expert specialist, and everything would work around you and your schedule in many cases, and you would go in there as the expert, and all the cleanup and all that stuff would be taken care of by somebody else. As a business owner, you've got to do all of those things. So the employee guarantees to get paid. They're guaranteed to always be paid later. They're guaranteed to be paid the same amount. Maybe they get a bonus at the end of the year, but there's a lot of predictability in that. The problem with that is that, or the difference between that and an entrepreneur does work, and they're not guaranteed to get paid for doing that work. However, if they do good work, they can get paid over and over and over and over again for doing that same task. See, as an employee, when you get paid for those 2 weeks, you never get paid for those 2 weeks again, no matter how great or amazing or exceptional that job was. But as an entrepreneur, I could record an awesome video, or I could create a digital course, or I could do some trainings, and I could package that up and get paid for it over and over and over and over again, for a lifetime if I really wanted to, depending on the content and the value of it that I created. So that's one of the benefits of being an entrepreneur, is that, we can scale in so many different ways that an employee cannot. But it's a risk that we take. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in what you have to offer. You have to believe that what you're currently doing right now is making the problem worse, not making the problem better. And as Jim Rohn says, you have to come to a point of kind of almost being disgusted with what you're doing, knowing that there's a better way and you're not doing it. And that each interaction that you have, knowing, that this isn't the right thing for this client, and continuing to do that, it kind of eats away at us after a while. So you have to kind of be sick and tired of being on this hamster wheel and be willing to do something different and really have something that you stand for and something you stand against.
Yeah, I like that. It's like hitting this kind of threshold, and once you hit that threshold, then there's no way you can continue to do business as usual. You're looking for a change, and so it's almost like either your mindset has to be broken, if you will, by the system, or the system is broken, and then you're searching and you're open to the change and the possibilities that are out there. What I love about the concept of these doctors is, it's a choice. They don't have to leave. And what you're saying, it sounds like there's a wave of functional medicine, a wave of integrative medicine, and sort of like value-based care coming through the US and potentially the Canadian health systems. In my own experience, I found that either, you can stay in a traditional practice, you can completely transition out, or you can try to do it maybe in a hybrid approach. So maybe a concierge, maybe where you layer these kind of, more predictive, proactive kind of functional medicine, integrative medicine kind of techniques on top of your traditional practice. So how do people get to know more about you? Where can they get into your ecosystem? How do they get to work with you, my friend?
Well, thanks for asking. So they can certainly follow me on social media. We'll probably share the links for them. Facebook is where I do a lot of my thought and idea dumps. So you can follow me there. You can also go to perfectpracticementorship.com and you can learn more about our mentorship programs. And, we're always here to help and support. I've also written a book called Perfect Practice. So you can get a free copy of that. It's at getperfectpractice.com. And there's also a podcast where, Vikram, you've been featured as well, which is also called Perfect Practice. So a bunch of ways to reach out to us, and always happy to connect with any practitioner who wants to, take their life and their business to the next level.
Thank you, my friend. Wishing you all green lights. Phenomenal journey you've been on. You're an inspiration to me. Well done. And for our listeners, guys, thank you again for listening to another episode of Limitless MD, where we teach you about freedom, wealth, and human optimization. So until next time, guys, be phenomenal. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Limitless MD. If you found value from this episode, I encourage you to share this episode with a friend and let me know by leaving a review. For more information, make sure you check out the links in the show notes below or simply visit vikramraya.com. So until next time, my friends, be phenomenal.